Hello all of you beautiful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and when it comes to films, we sure do love alternate endings, but no genre does alternate endings quite like horror. And so what we thought we'd do today is shine a light on some endings that never made the final cut, but are still very interesting. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 more alternate horror movie endings you didn't see. Number 10. Ben Lives, Night of the Living Dead. The death of Dwayne Jones's Ben is one of the most depressing in horror history. Having seemingly survived against all odds as the ghouls of the night and the living dead run rampant, Ben is shot and killed after being mistaken for one of the shuffling undead. Now, originally, writers John Russo and George A. Romero envisioned an ending where Ben survives to live another day. Instead, though, they ended up on settling on an ending where Ben was shot and thrown on a fire with the ghouls. So why didn't we get the happy ending? Well, that all comes down to Dwayne Jones. As he explained to The Wrap back in 2010, he was one who petitioned Russo and Romero to not have that happy ending. For Jones, he thought that Night of the Living Dead would be more impactful and memorable if his character died at the end. As he put it, "I convinced George that the black community would rather see me dead than saved, after all that had gone on in a corny and symbolic, confusing way. The heroes never die in American movies. The jolt of that and the double jolt of the hero being black seemed like a double-barreled whammy." Number 9. Freddy Jr.? Freddy vs. Jason. Having been talked about for years, Freddy Krueger of the Elm Street franchise and Jason Voorhees of the Friday the 13th series finally butted heads in 2003 with Ronnie Yu's Freddy vs. Jason. Taking place across the infamous Springwood and Camp Crystal Lake locales so often stalked by Krueger and Voorhees, this matchup results in a brilliant final act war. After roughing each other up, the end sees Freddy decapitated by final girl Laurie, and the two rogues fall into Crystal Lake. By the following morning, Jason emerges from the lake with the winking head of Krueger in his grasp as the credits hit. Now, for test audiences and those who own the 2-disc special edition DVD, they actually got to see a very different ending that had a scene where Laurie and boyfriend Will are about to have sex, but once Will acts a little rough, his hand turns into one mirroring Freddy's famed blades. With it unclear if Will was possessed, had become a new Freddy, or whether this was just a dream of Laurie's, the decision was made to scrap this ending. Number 8. Paxton becomes a monster. HOSTEL. HOSTEL is a grim, depressing movie, that is for sure, yet this alternate ending somehow makes the picture even more, well, grim and depressing. In this Eli Roth film, 2 of the friends of Jay Hernandez's Paxton are killed as he himself is tortured in some pretty twisted ways at the hands of the nefarious elite hunting group. For Paxton, he's fortunate enough to temporarily escape the clutches of the disturbing elite hunting group, an organization that auctions off people to be tortured. Closing out the 2005 original, Paxton makes it onto a train that stops in Vienna. There, he spots the Dutch businessman who killed his buddy Josh and thus follows DB into a public bathroom and murders him before hopping onto another train. So how could you make HOSTEL even more troubling, I hear you ask? Why? Well, you have an alternate ending where Paxton kidnaps a child. Yeah, in this variant final scene, Paxton spots the aforementioned Dutch businessman character at a train station with his young daughter. After the unnamed Dutchman goes to the restroom, he returns to find his offspring missing. As he holds her teddy bear and screams out for her, the audience sees a clearly troubled Paxton restraining the girl in a train that soon departs the station. Number 7. Katie gets gunned down. Paranormal Activity. So part of that Paranormal Activity buzz was due to how the flick leaked online a solid 18 months before the film hit cinemas, with that leaked cut having a vastly different finale to what became the official version of Paranormal Activity. The end of the first Paranormal Activity has Katie spending her hours staring at her sleeping boyfriend. Going downstairs, a scream from Katie has him wake up and rush to her assistance. Following an off-screen wail, audiences witness the lifeless body being thrown directly at the camera by Katie, and the picture ends as a demonic Katie lunges at the viewer. Now, this ending was put in place once Paramount picked up Paranormal Activity, but those who'd acquired the film previously were given an ending where Katie just winds up dead. Before she does that, we get the same sequence of the boyfriend following Katie downstairs where he's killed, but this time Katie returns to the bedroom and rocks back and forth until the following morning. When the police turn up at the scene, they find the possessed Katie holding a knife, with the slamming door of the attic startling a policeman who shoots her dead. Number 6. Alex sacrifices himself and Clear gives birth. Final Destination. The original Final Destination finished up with 3 survivors in the shape of Alex Browning, Clear Rivers, and Carter Horton. And in the alternate ending, there are still technically 3 survivors, but Alex isn't one of them. In the finished film, we saw Alex chasing Clear from being blown to bits in his car after he grabs the electrical cables that are about to take her life. There, we skip ahead to see Alex, Clear, and Carter vacationing in Paris for a not-so-happy ending. For the alternate ending, not only was Alex to be taken by death in the explosive car set piece, but the movie then jumps ahead to see Clear giving birth to the pair's son. From there, Clear, her newborn, and Carter visit Alex's grave to pay their respects. If Final Destination would have used this alternative finale, they would have changed the very concept of the franchise, with Clear having survived due to bringing new life into the world, and Carter surviving because the final target of death, as in Alex, was taken out of the equation. Number 5. Dr. Wells' son strikes out. Godsend. In 2004's Godsend, Paul and Jesse Duncan are a couple whose son is killed a day after his 8th birthday. When Robert De Niro's Wells approaches with the offer of cloning their boy Adam, they eventually and reluctantly agree to move forward with this procedure. Once Godsend gets going, the new Adam's erratic behavior is revealed to be because the cloning process had mixed the original Adam's DNA with that of Zachary. And who the hell's Zachary? Why, that's the disturbed, deceased son of Robert De Niro's Wells, a boy who burned down his school, killed his mother, and then burnt himself alive with her corpse in their family abode, aka a right wrong'un. Due to Wells not having enough of Zachary's DNA to fully clone his dead son, he required the DNA of another youngster in order to try and duplicate his offspring. The finale had the Duncans move to a new neighborhood, with Adam's behavior subsequently picking up. Well, technically it is implied that Zachary is back in control as the film ends. But here's the real kicker. This film actually had 4 alternate endings, and one of them sees De Niro's Wells killed after Adam injects him with poison. When Paul then stops Adam from killing Jesse, he tries to strangle his air quote son, but is stopped by his wife. There, the film wraps up with the Duncans at the grave of their real son, while the clone watches on. Are you confused by that? Yeah, me too. Number 4. Mia is still possessed. Evil Dead. Rather than merely a group of pals and lovers heading out into the woods for some quality time and partying, the Evil Dead 2013 redo saw its central characters take out into the wild as part of an attempt to help one of them overcome her drug problems. Of course, demonic Necronomicon shenanigans unravel, with Mia being the sole survivor of the film, as this Evil Dead offering ends with her stumbling out into the woods, quickly followed by a post-credits groovy from the one and only Ashley J. Williams. In an alternative ending, she makes her way to the road where she's picked up by a passerby. With the camera in tight on her face, we see her character open her eyes in a way that suggests that she's still possessed. Likewise, this ending also had David, her brother who sacrificed himself to save her in the theatrical cut, possessed by the evil spirits of the picture. Incidentally, the director has also made mention how one planned ending he had was for Mia to be taken over to an extent that her body literally exploded. Those plans were dashed, however, when Sam Raimi stepped in to talk the director out of it. Number 3. Esther carries on her act. Orphan. Now, Orphan is famed for having one of the most bonkers horror twists of the past 20 years. The big swerve here is that this sweet and innocent youngster, who the Coleman family adopt, is in reality a deranged, murderous 33-year-old who suffers from a rare hormone disorder. By the time the cat is out of the bag, the killer, whose real name is Lena, has killed a nun, faked child abuse, and put adoptive brother Daniel in the hospital, before eventually killing the family patriarch John. It comes down to Kate Coleman to finally put a stop to her rampage as she boots the little loon in the jaw and then lets her freeze to death in an icy lake. But in an alternate version of Orphan's ending, Kate and Lena don't actually end up in that icy locale. Instead, takes a different path from that moment in the theatrical cut, where Kate falls from a roof onto Lena to stop her from killing the 5-year-old Max Coleman. Then Orphan skips ahead to a scene of Lena in her bedroom, doing her makeup in order to have her look like the 9-year-old that she continued to claim to be. The police arrive on the scene as this imposter plays nice, with it implied that she may have killed Kate and Max. Number 2. Duddits goes out with a bang. Dreamcatcher. Lawrence Kasdan's Dreamcatcher is a strange beast. On paper, the Stephen King source material and impressive core ensemble of Timothy Oliphant, Thomas Jane, Jason Lee, Damian Lewis, Donnie Wahlberg, and Morgan Goddamn Freeman should have made for movie gold, but instead, the final result was a total disappointment. Largely focused on four pals whose hunting trip goes completely tits up when they encounter some parasitic aliens who are intent on contaminating the world's water supply, this 2003 picture concludes with a confrontation between James Henry, Wahlberg's Duddits, and Lewis's possessed Jonesy. Revealing himself to be an alien too, Duddits draws out the big worm freak from Jonesy and the two collide in a puff of colour resembling a dreamcatcher. Then Jonesy stamps on the last surviving worm, the end. But in an alternate ending for the movie, which has been included as bonus material on certain home releases of Dreamcatcher, Duddits ends up using some special ability to take out the final worm before passing away from leukemia. After that, audiences are left with a shot of Duddits' friends visiting his grave. And number 1, ERIN dies. You're next. In the form of You're Next's ERIN, we got one of the greatest modern-day horror protagonists. A total badass who grew up on a survival compound, ERIN turns the tables on the masked attackers of Adam Wingard's movie, going from hunted to hunter. From ERIN, there's death by blender, death by meat tenderizer, and a wide array of brilliant, brutal traps that would make Kevin McAllister proud. By the time You're Next concludes, everybody is dead apart from ERIN, with it having been revealed how her fella Crispin was part of the plan to off most of his family in order to get a hefty inheritance. After killing Crispin, ERIN is shot in the shoulder by a policeman but survives after that cop is taken out by an axe-swinging booby trap. A blood-splattered You're Next hits the screen, and that's it for this fantastic feature. But as revealed by director Wingard, he originally intended for You're Next to have a slightly different ending. Yes, ERIN would emerge victorious from the Davison family abode, and yes, she would kill all of her attackers and her underhand boyfriend, but the difference here though is that the policeman who arrives on the scene would have actually shot her dead. While this ending was indeed filmed, Wingard decided against using it in the final cut of the movie. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 more alternate horror movie endings you didn't see. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice, where I do all of my streaming outside of work, and it'd be great to see you over there. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.